Don't forget to click the link in the description box below to join my Euro 2020 Fantasy League. Let's ride. So, welcome to the next of our Euro 2020 squad previews. You know, I have three good friends with me who will be helping with this, and we're going to be focusing on Germany. So remember, guys, in the description box below, join my Euro 2020 Fantasy League. You might remember the cutoff point is 11th of June. Deadline is 11th of June. Join us, and you have chances to win prizes if you come first, second, or third. So remember, join in the link below in the description box for my Euro 2020 Fantasy League. So we are here for Germany. So we're going to try and break down this Germany lineup, this Germany squad, and so forth. But before we really go in there, and before we bring the squad up, I just want to start things from like a very general point of view. So I want to just talk about Yogi Low and how we now know that this is going to be his last tournament after being part of the teams from, I think around 06, 07, like he took over the team from when he was an assistant with Jürgen Klinsmann at the 06 World Cup. And then obviously we now know that Hansi Flick is going to take over. So let me come first to Bayern Fan TV. I mean, how do you feel that Yogi Low is going to sort of end this on a good note? And how would you just review Yogi Low's tenure throughout? Do you believe that he should have stepped down after the 2018 World Cup and allow someone new to usher? Or do you think he does deserve this last tournament before going through?
So to start with, obviously, Yogi Low, he's won the World Cup in 2014, so I have to give him credit for that. Overall, I've not been happy with him at all. To me, the way we've lost the 2012 Euros is the reason I've been against him. Since that moment, since that tournament, I've been massively against him. And personally, if it was up to me, I would have loved for him to step down after the 2014 World Cup. Go out on a high. You can't really do anything better than that. But he didn't. And then 2016 Euros happened. The exit happened. 2018 happened. And now 2020 is gonna, 2021, I guess, is gonna happen. So I'm not that confident, but I somehow also think that we're gonna win this Euros. I don't know why. I'm like not confident at all in him and in the squad, but somehow I just think because he's been there so long and because everyone knows that he's gonna leave, that they're gonna play for him, which I usually hate when players play for a manager, for a coach. But I think with him, it's going to work because he's got because he's won the World Cup. So that by itself has such a huge reputation. So, yeah, I personally think we shouldn't be favorites. We shouldn't be considered, but somehow we're going to win it.
Wow.
That's really it.
Okay, confidence, man. So what about you, Priya, your Yogi Low thoughts?
I would have to mostly agree with everything Bayern Fan TV just said. Maybe not. He shouldn't have, I don't agree with he should have stepped down in 2012 because look what happened in 2014. If we had a different coach, we might have not won it. Who knows? But I definitely agree. Maybe in the 2016 mark after we went out, because the way we went out against France was it was kind of like a similar collapse, and like against Italy in 2012. I feel like those were like, that was for me the first red flag. Like, okay, maybe we should move on. But he stayed in 2018, and Germany fans had to suffer through. We don't want to talk about 2018, but we suffered through that. But yeah, I think I was thinking the same thing. They're going to play for him because there's players in that squad that have been with him for quite a while, and I think even by calling back up Muller and Hummels, bringing in back that experience in the defense and in attack, having those leaders in the back and front, I think they're just going to play their hearts out for him and hopefully get out of the group stage. We don't need another group stage debacle like in 2004 and in 2018. I'm just get out of the.
It's a tough group. It's a tough group.
It's a tough. I mean, I remember before the group stage draw, like there was the possibility of that. I'm like, nah, no way. Next morning, I wake up because I'm in the United States. The draw happens when I'm asleep. I wake up. Oh my God, France, Portugal. Just get out of the group stage, and for me, that's a success because then that's a building block for the World Cup next year when we have Hansi Flick and a whole new project started.
Samaya?
Yeah, so for Yogi Low, I would never take the 2014 World Cup away from him. Like he he got his tactics right in 2014. But the way we went out in 2016 against Italy, that's when I wanted him gone. I was no longer I felt like we needed a new direction. We needed a change in philosophy. We needed a different manager. But then he wasn't willing to step down, and because of what he did in 2014, I feel like it would be a bit too harsh to just sack him. Like I didn't want Löw, but I wouldn't like fire him, but just based on what he did in 2014. But 2018, that was no excuse. Like being bounced in the group stage, that was no excuse, and he should have gone. And now 3 years, well, 2.5 years later, he still hasn't quite implemented his tactics correctly. He always gets his tactics wrong when in the second by the time second half uh comes. He would always like first half our Germany would be playing well, and then second half and second when by the time when second half comes, the opposition team they switch up tactics or they have different game plans, and that's when Yogi Löw just completely becomes clueless. And then recently he's been using the parking bus strategy, which doesn't really bond well with the German philosophy. And I just feel like this isn't the same Yogi Löw that I used to think of back in 2010 or 2012. I just think he's really he's being clueless. So honestly, I'm not.
So you felt like he should have stepped down in 2016?
Yes, he should step down, but he chose not to. But we should. I feel like the DFB should have fired him in 2018. Um, yeah, and I'm not confident about the Euro 2021. I think we're coming third. I don't think we'll finish above France or Portugal, and I just hope we somehow can pass the group stage.
Okay, guys, look, man, let's roll with it, man. So let's bring up the squad. So I want to now I'm going to now break it down as keepers, defenders, midfielders, and attackers. So let's now deal with the keepers.
So first of all, I just want to say the reason why Ter Stegen wasn't nominated is because he's undergoing a knee surgery.
Okay,
so that's why.
So okay. So if he was fully, let's say, if he didn't have to go to that knee surgery, he would have been picked. You believe?
Yeah. Over Trapp.
For Trapp.
Yeah. But that basically answers the question. Like, if Neuer were to get injured, I'd probably pick Leno. He's not really, good at building up from the back or anything, but he's a shot stopper, and that's kind of what you need. At least in the Euros, you can't. I mean, it did work in a 2014 World Cup where we essentially used Neuer's, sweeping role and Neuer's build-up play, so on and so forth. But we're not really the same team. So I think Leno, just a traditional goalkeeper, will work excellent with the team.
So do you echo that as well, Poya? That's do you trust Leno to come in and deputize if Neuer is out?
Yeah, with Leno, I've always thought he's a really good shot stopper. Like shot stopping wise in the Prem, he's one of the best goalies. Just his reflexes, his positioning. But every time I've watched Arsenal, when they try to play out of the back, whenever I've tuned into a game of theirs, he's always giving up possession in very, very bad spots, and he tries to force passes when he should just boot it up. And if we were to put him in, if something happens to Neuer pre-Euros or in like one of the games, just his distribution really, really worries me. And in the past Germany games, in like the North Macedonia game and the recent games where we just like faltered, a lot of times this German team gives away the ball in very, very bad positions. And that's why teams like North Macedonia with a 45-year-old Pandev are able to counterattack like world-class talents and score. So that's one part of Leno's game that worries me a lot. But he's, in my opinion, his shot stopping is far superior to Trapp's. So, and in games against France and Portugal, where they're going to carve out chances against that defense, you would want a better shot stopper. So yeah, that's why I agree with Bayern Fan TV, Leno over Trapp.
And so Sanmaya, what about you? Looking at Leno coming through, would you entrust him to come in for Neuer?
Yeah, I would. I would. If Neuer ever gets injured, I would start Leno ahead of Trapp. But for me, Leno's biggest problem isn't his reflex. It's just his goalkeeping. I feel like sometimes he gives too many rebounds, or he doesn't provide like a. He's not like he doesn't provide a great protection. He's not like very assured presence like Neuer. Like like whenever Neuer is in goal, I feel like the backline will always be confident that they trust their keeper. He trusts the keeper to make a save. He's always even in possession. Our center backs will always trust Neuer as like an for passing because like Leno doesn't have the same passing range as like Neuer. So in possession week, it would be very detrimental to Germany if Leno's in goal. But in terms of shot stopping, I feel like Leno, he gives too many rebounds. He's not very confident in the air. So I feel like, yeah, goalkeeping is his biggest weakness. And if we don't have Neuer for the Euro, if Neuer ever gets injured in Euros, I think we're pretty much doomed.
So before I come to the defense, see, because we're sort of doing the awards of like, who's been the best keeper, and I say that's best keeper this season. This season has been Courtois. But do you still believe Neuer is still the big dog? So that's what I'm saying. I see that. So do you still believe that Neuer is still the best keeper in the world? Or do you think that's Courtois? Or do you still think, no, Neuer is still head honcho?
I mean, I'll go first. Neuer is the best keeper in the world. He's the only reason why we actually won the Bundesliga this season. Like, our defense has been so bad. Like, we've never been this bad defensively. I think the last time we've been this bad was 1992, where we've conceded as many goals as we had this season. And the reason why we didn't concede more was because of Neuer. Like, honestly, I'm a little bit biased towards goalkeepers because I used to play as a goalkeeper. But, like, he was just incredible. Like, he was just incredible this season. I think he was even better than he was last season. And that despite the fact that we've conceded so many goals. So for me, honestly, the only other keeper that I would give it to would honestly be Edison, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think he's the only other goalkeeper that, like, to me, is complete this season. That wasn't really at fault this season.
Have you seen the amount of 1v1s Courtois has been? Because I always say, like, a 1v1 is thing that's always stacks against the keeper. And Courtois, for me, he is being, like, I think if you just look at legacy, Neuer legacy is one of the greatest keepers of all time. But to just look at this season, Courtois, especially 1v1, specifically with how many chances Real Madrid give, he's been flipping amazing. He's been very good, But as I say, look, Neuer is still overall the head honcho, but I think specifically when we're now going into the defense, and a defense that doesn't have a Lam, I don't think a Boateng and so forth, I think Neuer is going to be even much more important for him because he's going to, specifically against France, so Benzema, Mbappe, Griezmann thingy, and what's it called, Andre Silva, Bruno, Cristiano, and so forth, Neuer will have to be at his very best, because he's going to have to face saves. Let's come to this defense now. So, are you guys going with a back four or a back three?
Back four. I would assume look, if he's kind of like a leech. So, like, when Bayern plays a back four, he plays a back four. When Bayern plays a back three, he plays a back three. So he kind of always uses whichever team, whatever Bayern really uses. But, like, because Chelsea was so successful this season, I could see him use a back three because the Germans that were at Chelsea played a back three. So he's kind of a leech in that regard. But I still think he's going to go with a back four.
Okay, so let me do this. So let me come to Puya. So if you were to pick a back four, who would your back four be out of that defense there?
So my back four would be definitely Rudiger. I mean, I'm absolutely I applaud Tuchel so much for realizing this guy's potential and getting him to that level. Because I've been following him a long time and he never got there. And then Lampard was going to discard this guy. And now he's, in my opinion, based off just this season, one of the top center halves in the world. Like,
yeah.
that tackle, you brought it up after the post-match Champions League final, that tackle on Foden in the first half.
Huge.
If Foden scores that, that's a different game. Man City.
Different game. Totally different game.
Most likely, yeah, so we need a defender like him to make those big boy tackles against people like Mbappe and them.
But very quickly, let me explain. And this is a bit of, football psychology here. There are defenders who are one way in a 3 and one way in a 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So Rudiger is very used to playing in a 3. Now, if you guys, that's why I asked you guys, if you guys think you're not going to play in a 4, and that's different because playing in a unit of a 3 is different. Now, playing where your partnership and your chemistry with your defensive partner, that is a different way of defending that is needed. So if you're not going to go with Rudiger, do you believe, so I'm assuming you're saying Rudiger and Hummels.
Yeah, Rudiger and Hummels. The only reason I say back 4 is because we don't really have the players, I mean, at least in my opinion, strong enough right wing back, left. I don't like Gosens and Klosterman would be my starting left back and right back. I don't trust them to be running up and down that wing all game against teams like France who have the pace of Coman and Mbappe to get back on defense and help out with players like with Hummels, Rudiger, and whoever the third center back would be in the back 3. I wouldn't really know. I think I would suppose Ginter. Low really likes Ginter for some reason. I'm not really that big of a fan of him. But for me, my back 4 would be Klosterman, Rudiger, Hummels, and Robin Gosens from Atlanta.
So, Samuel, what about you? Who would your 4 defenders be?
So this is what I prefer, not what I think Yogi Low will do, right? Okay. My back 4 would be Hausenberg, Hummels, Rudiger, and I would actually put Kimmich in right back.
That's taken away from your midfield. That's taken away from your midfield. But okay, yeah. But it's your thing. Okay. So what about you, Ban Fan TV? What would your 4 be?
So my back 4 would be Klosterman at right back, and then I would play Ginter and Rudiger. I don't even know why Hummels was nominated. If I'm being completely honest, to me, he was not good this season. And then as a left back, I'd obviously go with Robin Gosens. I don't think Jogi Low will go with that, though. I think he'll switch. Honestly, I think he's going to switch Hummels for Rudiger, if I'm being completely honest, which I don't think it deserves at all, but I think that's what he's going to do.
Okay, let's now move to the midfield. And see, I'm looking at these names now, because while we're just doing the whole defense, I was looking at these names. There is some talent here. There is some talent here, which is why I said that it is, I think, unique. Because when someone said you want to put Joshua Kimmich at right back, I'm like, keep that guy in midfield, because if you have Kimmich in this midfield, Germany's midfield is looking very, very strong. Because, see, the only thing I'll ask you guys is I see a lot of CMs and a lot of AMs. But who would be the holding midfielder here? Who would be the most defensive-minded midfielder in this list? Ban Fan TV. Who would be the guy that sort of helped to protect the defense? Because Emre Can for me is nah.
I mean, you just mentioned him, Emre Can. He's the most defensively minded, and that says a lot because all the other ones, they're not really attacking. They are central midfielders. Like you look at Goretzka, he's not really. Not really. I mean, he likes to go forward as well. Like Emre Can is the only one that is disciplined enough to stay back if he's given that role. Like you look at Goretzka. Goretzka likes to, he's basically a box-to-box midfielder. Gundogan, I mean, he played there with Manchester City, but we saw how that worked out. He's not really, that's not his natural position. You go to Kimmich. I mean, Kimmich, yes, but Kimmich also likes to go forward. Like Kimmich, if he's asked to stay back, he likes to go forward too. So like there is no one really that fits the bill. Toni Kroos, he kind of just roams all over it. So not the same. Even we saw how that failed in the 2012 Euros when he was tasked to play there against Italy, and then Italy scored. So for me, I mean, you go with 2 central midfielders and you kind of leave it at that. That's how Bayern went, and we conceded goals, but we scored more than your opponent. So that's kind of what I think Germany's going to do.
So Samai, you're looking at this midfield. So who would like your starting midfielders be? Because you have a lot of choice to go through, but who would your starting midfielders be out of this crew?
Okay, first of all, I will play 4-2-3-1 formation. So Muller will be the cam. The double pivot would be Gundogan and Goretzka. Those will be my two double pivots.
Okay. So what's it called? Puya. So what about you? Who would your midfielders be out of these?
Undoubtedly, Kimmich has to be in there. When we're talking about some of the best midfielders in the world, people like Conte, Kimmich, Kroos, Casemiro, those come into mind. So Kimmich has to be in there, especially in games against France where we need someone to really who's in form and can control the tempo against that France midfield, which is just scary to me. And I would go 4-2-3-1 also, like Sanmia said. And I think I'm not sure. Muller is definitely the cam. Like, we didn't bring Muller. Low did not call up Muller to bench him. He's starting. He's like a guaranteed starter. It's just I don't know who would play against. I would just stick with the Bayern three, the Muller, Kimmich, and Goretzka, because in my opinion, I feel like when it comes, because for me, I'm thinking about those games against France and Portugal, which are the first two games. In my opinion, Kroos is going to get eaten out alive especially against France. And I really like the Kimmich and Goretzka dynamic. Goretzka's really dynamic box to box. He can also score goals. He has that aerial ability. He has a mean shot on him. And Kimmich is really good at dictating the play. Sure, people say he's a defensive mid. He offers more in attack, but he would have to be, as you were talking about earlier with Bayern Fan TV, the more defensive-minded midfielder in that three.
So you said you wanted to ask a question about the defense, Puya.
Yeah. First of all, I agree with Bayern Fan TV. I said Hummels would be in my starting back line just for the experience, but why was I know Bayern's defense was bad, but in the tail end of the season, in my opinion, Jerome Boateng was amazing. Like, Jerome Boateng was putting in really, really good performances at the end of the season. I just want to ask them, like, is there a reason why he just favor Hummels over Boateng? Because in my opinion, Boateng should have gone that call up over Hummels. I just want to know if there was a reason, because I can't find a reason.
Bayern Fan TV?
No particular reason. Honestly, I feel like Hummels was kind of shafted by both Germany and Bayern, because now Bayern is looking for a new centre-back, and Boateng was our best centre-back this season at the end, well, at least towards the second half of the season. So honestly, if it was up to me, like, again, Hummels wouldn't be in the Germany squad. I think even Niklas Süle wouldn't be in the Germany squad over Boateng. So for me, he's unlucky. He's quite unlucky.
Yeah, Süle hasn't even been fit for like the last 2 months, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sanmaya?
Yeah, Boateng is one of the most disrespected players of this generation, in my opinion, and that's not even an exaggeration. Like, Uli Hoeneß came out and said he wouldn't even take Boateng into the Euros. I'm like, that's just absurd to say that from a former Bayern president. So yeah, it's debatable that people think Hummels is better than Boateng this year. I wouldn't disagree if Löw thinks Hummels has been slightly better than Boateng, but there's no way players like Robin Koch, Klostermann, or Niklas Süle had a better season than Boateng. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so now let's move over to the attack. Now, I'm just going to come out and just say it. Would you start Timo Werner? because see, here's my thing, because I'm looking at some really interesting names, and the thing about it is, I don't know how much cachet Kevin Volland has, but I've seen enough from Volland to say that I would start Volland over Werner. If you don't even want to go with Volland, I really like that Musiala kid. I think that there is a clutch goal scoring acumen in your boy Sane. And here's the thing, which is why I'm looking at this right now. We've named a midfield that has had, you say, okay, Emre Can is the defensive minded guy. Okay, you've got Kimmich in there. okay, you've now got Muller and everything. He did score the Champions League winning goal. This guy has actually shown that he's actually a better goal scorer than Timo Werner. Should Havertz be the striker? Banfan TV.
So, Gnabry, the one name that you didn't mention, he'd be my striker.
What?
Yeah, he is our best finisher. He's the best finisher.
But see, this now we know gets to whole football dynamics is that all because you're a good finisher doesn't mean that you know how to play the role of a striker. It means that you're in the center of the pitch. You have to play inside the box and not to play off of guys. Because again, some people are good finishers, but they're good finishers because they can come out wide and they can come in from the diagonal or have like a whole one-to-one. But that whole thing of playing in a center of the pitch, in a center, having to play up against those two defenders and so forth, can Gnabry play there? Because remember, Havertz, I still think he needs to build up a bit of muscle. Super smart, is tall, can hold the ball up, is good in the air. So I think, do you think he has much more of the attributes to be able to give it to him in the floor, through ball, crossover, and let me hit in the area?
No, I don't. Again, the reason why I'm going with Gnabry personally is because we're going to be a team that has possession. So we don't really need a striker to really hold the ball up. You're basically always feeding into a channel. So someone like, I think even someone like, I know you hate him, but like someone like Werner, someone that makes runs, like Gnabry and Werner, who are maybe not, I mean, they're both fast, but that's not really the thing that I was going for. That have good acceleration. These are the kind of strikers that we need, because with Germany, it's not like our striker is our only focal point. You know, we've got our wingers who like to score, our midfielders who like to score. So it's not like the strikers itself are that important, but what is important is that they make runs, because that stretches defense. And that's why someone like Werner, even if he doesn't score, he'll still stretch defenses. Someone like Gnabry, even if he doesn't score, he'll still stretch defenses. And that's kind of why I would go for it. One other thing that I do want to say is that I've been thinking about it, and I actually think we might play a back three. I've been listening to all of you talk about the midfield and the defense and the attack, and I actually think, looking at it now, I think we might play a back three, because we've got so many Leipzig player in here, and Leipzig player back three. We've got Robin Gosens in here, who plays for Atlanta. He plays, an Atlanta player back three. Then you've got the Chelsea boys who play a back three. So you've got plenty of players here that play a back three. So with a back three, you can obviously get more people in the middle of the pitch.
So who would because I think it's a point that Poya raised. Who would the wing backs be if you had a back three?
On the right, I'd probably play Klosterman. On the left, I'd play Gosens, because that's the natural position. So I could honestly see that being the case. And then obviously, if you want more offensive, you can play Gnabry as a right wing back, or on the left, you could, then Sana, you could do the same. I don't think Musiala, just to go back to your point, I don't think Musiala is a striker. He really is a central attacking midfielder, a number 10, who can play on the wings. So
basically Müller. That's going to be Goretzka's or Muller's position, isn't it?
Müller or Havertz, actually. Goretzka, I don't even know whether he's going to be fit, because he's currently getting fit for the for the Euros. So I don't know whether he's going to actually get into the squad like immediately. I wouldn't play him against France. I wouldn't play him against Portugal. I would, but against France, personally, I would play a midfield. If we're going with back four and two midfielders, I would play with Toni Kroos and Kimmich, because I think against France, especially, you need control, because they've got Kante, and Kante, he basically makes a 2-man midfield into a 3-man midfield. So that's why you need more control to really, get possession of the game and minimize the chances that the other side has. So that's kind of how I would go.
So what about you, Son Maya? What would you do with the attacking situation as to who plays striker and so forth?
Yeah, I would play Kevin Volland instead of Gnabry or Timo Werner. Timo Werner is not going to work because he only really functions in a 4-4-2 system, and I wouldn't just accommodate Timo Werner. So I don't think it's worth it to just play 4-4-2 to accommodate Timo. So, and Kevin Volland has shown in his time at Monaco, well, this year at Monaco and before at Leverkusen, that he can operate as a lone striker due to his linker play, his ball control, his off the ball movements, and how he can be, and how he's, I think he scored like at least 15 goals in the Bundesliga more than once. I think definitely more than once. So he can be clinical as well. So I would play Kevin Volland up front and just keep Gnabry as an inside forward.
What about you, Puya, with regards to the attack?
So we brought back the 3 in the back. I feel like if we go like that 3-5-2, Gnabry would be a really good striker alongside Volland, those two. But I think if I'm sticking to my formation that I believe 4-2-3-1, Volland would be the most ideal in my opinion, because I think back to that Bayern team and Muller plays really well. The key to this attack is going to be Muller. Muller is going to be our creator, and he's just going to be setting everything up. And when I think of Lewandowski, the guy who resembles him the most and Muller can play off of the most is Volland. But at the same time, Timo Werner does a lot with his runs and opening up spaces. We saw that in the CL final. The only thing he did was open up that space for Havertz. But then also in our recent international friendlies where we played like complete ass, Havertz was playing as striker and he was playing really well, in my opinion. He was linking up really well with Gnabry and Sane on the left and right wing. So we have a lot of options, but in my opinion, Volland, and then if Volland gets injured or something, probably Havertz.
So guys, I want to now visualize this to see how this is going to set up. So I will come first to Bayern Fan TV with this. So let's say you're in the hot seat. How would you set up? So I obviously assume Neuer is in there. So
yep,
you're going to stick with your back 3 or go with the back 4?
I'll go with a back 4, although I do think he might go with a back 3.
Okay,
so
I'll
go
on the
with
left.
Back 4. On the left, I'd have Robin Gosens. My 2 centre backs would be Ginter and Rudiger, and then my right back would be Klostermann.
So how is the midfield going to work? So do you have is it a diamond, a base 2? How?
Yeah, base 2.
Okay. And then is there a?
It's a it's a 3. So a 4-2. I'm going with a 4-2-3-1 with yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is
so I'm thinking about the France game here in particular. So this would be Toni Kroos, and the thing is, Toni Kroos, he's also not really fully fit.
Oh yeah, because it just came out from COVID, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, one of them would be Kimmich, for sure. If Kroos is not fit, like if he's not 100%, I'd probably go with Gundogan.
Okay.
Alongside Kimmich. Number 10 has to be Müller. That this one, to me, he's the first name on the team sheet alongside Neuer, if I'm being completely honest. The 2 wingers, now that's where it gets difficult. This is where I actually have no idea, because I wouldn't play Sane, and honestly, I also wouldn't play Gnabry. Gnabry has been good this season, but like he's had long stretches of form where he's just been absolutely terrible, and then he comes back and he scores and he assists, but then he goes back to being terrible. But Sane, his whole season hasn't been that great. That's difficult. I'll go to the striker. I'll think about the wingers in a second. Okay. I'll go to the strikers for now. Against France, who are the fullbacks? Who are the centre backs? You know what? I'll say it.
Because remember, you think about it. I really believe that you want to. I would say Volland would work better because you see, Werner works better with a team that gives you space. Didier Deschamps, super pragmatic, super defensive, super conservative. So he's going to sit back, Kante's going to protect and so forth. So what you do want is somebody who can try and hold up the ball, or somebody who can just form and be a presence for the two defenders.
Well, the thing with Volland is the reason why I wouldn't pick him is I think he plays as a second striker in France. He doesn't play as a first striker. So, like, you have, and he's the deepest striker. So you've got different responsibilities. You're playing more like a number 10, honestly, as a second striker, like between the number 10 and the traditional striking role.
See, I'm saying that it just as Yogi Low probably wouldn't do it. A false nine would work. If let's say you just say, you know what, there's no real striker, but there's just four guys who can just on the same with it, and there's just lots of movement.
But it's like I said, Yogi Low, he basically just picks the same formation that Bayern plays. So it's always been that way. It's been that way since he took over, essentially. And I don't think he's going to change it at the last tournament that he is at. So that's why I think he's going to go over like a traditional striker. And against France, and I'll say it, I'll pick Werner.
So you're still not yet sold on these two wingers. I mean, what about you guys? I mean, Sanmaya and okay, let me come to Sanmaya. Are you happy with this setup?
Well, for the defense, I would actually play Hummels instead of Ginter. Okay. Now for the left back, I would play Hausenberg, but because I think Gosens is better as a left wing back, not so much as a left back. Now for the right back, I just remembered that Goretzka, he just got an injury, and it was the game against Leverkusen when he got an injury. And I just read reports, and from Löw, he said Goretzka needs individual sessions before he starts team training. So it doesn't sound very likely that he'll start against France. So I might have to take back Kimmich right back, what I just said before about Kimmich right back, because after just reading what happened to Goretzka. So assuming that Goretzka isn't fully fit against France, I wouldn't play him then. Right back, surprisingly, I would actually play Niklas Süle instead of Klostermann.
Wow.
I think Süle has shown against Lazio and Dortmund that he could actually be a very good right back. His dribbling is actually quite underrated. He's actually a surprisingly good footballer.
Someday if he's good. Yeah. Because I think Mbappe plays on the right. So
yeah, and Süle he's a good footballer, and we saw that against Lazio. And like him, right back. I would trust actually the player I trust the most against Mbappe 1v1 is actually like Süle, if compared to Klostermann or Kimmich. I trust Süle the most against. So I would play Süle as right back, and the midfield stays the same. Gundogan, Kimmich. Gundogan has better mobility than Kroos. He has better technicality than Kroos, so I would play Gundogan ahead of Kroos. And I think Gundogan had a better season this year than Kroos.
No, but I think if Kroos is fit, he was going to play based on loyalty, legacy, and everything.
Löw's favorite player in this team is probably Kroos, so he's definitely on the team sheet, undoubtedly. But for me, I would rather
who plays on those flanks then.
Flanks. Left wing Sané, right wing Gnabry, and striker Volland.
Okay, so Mr. Puya, any changes you'd make to that?
Süle at right back isn't the worst shout, because I was surprised that Lazio game he was taking on players. Like I was pleasantly surprised with him at right back. And against Dortmund, he had a good showing, but he hasn't even been fit the last month and a half or so, even 2 months. So he hasn't gotten much game time. But that's a shout. But I would stick with Klostermann at right back. Gosens at left back. I feel like Gosens. There's also Gunter in this squad who's had a decent season at Freiburg, and he's got some good pace on him. But Gosens goes up against the more higher quality opponents week in week out throughout the season. So he has some experience with the national team. And if we're thinking about that, if Kroos is fit, Kroos plays. Kroos is Low's favorite player in this team. alongside probably Neuer. And yeah, Kimmich in the mid, Muller undoubtedly at cam. And I think I said Volland at striker. You just have to play your two most natural wingers, which are Sane and Gnabry. I know Gnabry, he was really on and off this season, but if you're looking at the team, like who else is going to play on the right wing? Like we need, who else is going to play on the wings? I guess at Bayern when Niko Kovac was there, he was playing Muller out wide, but that was like Muller's worst period of his career. Like he would literally go out there and do nothing and get subbed. So I think you got to play your two most natural wingers. Sane at the end of the season was getting better. Albeit in the Champions League, he didn't really deliver against PSG. He had a stinker against PSG, but towards the end of the season, his confidence was getting better and he was turning into a really good creator on the wing. But yeah, I would stick with what we have here, except with Klosterman at right back. And I do maybe Ginter over Hummels. I said I don't like him that much, but he is growing into a really good center back at Mönchengladbach. So I would actually probably go Ginter. Yeah.
Okay. So now, just to round it all off, guys. Actually, let me bring this up, man. So look, I said again, it's a tough ass group. It's a really, really tough group, and I think it's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, man. So there we have France, Germany, Hungary, Portugal. So let me come first to San Maya. How far do you think Germany go?
Well, it really depends on the other teams as well, because I'm predicting us to go third. So if we're gonna finish third in this group, it's I don't know whether we're out of the group stage or we're going to advance to the round 16, similar to how Portugal did in 2016. So, but I don't see us finishing above France or Portugal, not with this manager in charge, unfortunately.
Okay, so if you're third, then it's a gamble. Let's just say you do get through as one of the best third place teams. How far do you think you can go? Second round, quarters, semis?
It really depends on the draw, but
does the Euros even have a round of 16? Don't they go straight to quarterfinals? Or
I think you might. I think it is straight to quarters. I think
it did add more teams this year, right? So maybe there is a round of 16. I don't know.
Sure. Wait, there is a round of 16. There's a round of 16. Okay. Yeah, round of 16.
Honestly, I think it will be. I think I'm gonna say quarters, but I wouldn't be surprised if we could somehow sneak into semifinal. But I'm just gonna go with quarters.
Puya?
Yeah, I have a little more faith in this squad. I don't know. I just feel like Yogi Low departing, they're going to go out there, really play their hearts out. We're not going to see performances like we did against Spain, the 6-0. Like that was like 2018 peak lows. Like that was terrible, but I think we'll get second. And I think quarters, and we might sneak into the semis, but quarters is probably where we'll stop. Yeah.
I'm Bayern fan TV, man. So are you still going to stick with the fact that you believe that? Because remember, Bayern fans, you actually need to be very careful here. Because we all know about your wild prediction where you thought PSG would get Lara Crofted, levitated, test tubed, and so forth. So keep that in mind. Are you still sticking with Germany? Shocking, which it would be a shock based on just what happened in 2018. Do you still believe Germany can actually win this?
Yeah. I'm very confident. Actually, I'm more confident about this funny enough than I was in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018. 2018, I wasn't confident at all. He basically skipped that. But I'm actually very confident because it's kind of a silly thing to say, but there is history. Germany has this kind of like history where if they have a very bad time in like previous World Cups or previous Euros, they always come back with vengeance.
2002 World Cup, where like nobody gave them a chance, and I think they lost to England 5-1 in the qualifier. They ended up in the final.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah. That 5-1 then ultimately led to what I would consider the golden age of Germany, which is you focus on youth And then we saw him, we saw the youth come through in the 2010 World Cup. And then obviously from here on, we're still, the Germany under 21 today against Denmark, they just won and they're now in the semi-finals again for like the third year in a row. So that says a lot, that they're for the third time in a row, they're in the semi-finals of like the under 21. So we have a lot of great youth players coming through. And I feel like not to the same degree, but this is very similar to the 2014 World Cup, where it's like the end of a lot of the established Germany players. You've got the likes of Neuer, who I think this might be his last tournament. It may be the World Cup, considering that the World Cup is just next year, but it might be his last tournament. Then you've got Toni Kroos, who you're also nearing the end, especially with all the midfielders that we have. You've got Müller, who's basically just brought back for this one tournament. Maybe he'll be back at the World Cup. I don't know. But we've got like a lot of the players. It's very similar to like 2014, where you had like Schweinsteiger, Lahm, Klose, like all these players that were just at the end of their career that probably wouldn't have another international tournament. And this feels very similar to it. Now, granted, I don't really care too much about the Euros, if I'm being completely honest. I care about the World Cup. But a trophy is a trophy. And what better way for Yogi Low? I can't stand him, but what better way for him to go out than with the Euros? I think at that point, he can actually say that he's won everything that he wanted to, because he won the Confed, he won the World Cup, and then he can also say, I've won the Euros. So I think it's about time.
Okay. Well, guys, it's going to be a crazy summer. We'll just see how everything unrolls. I can't wait, because I just think that those games of Portugal, France, Germany, I think hopefully those games are going to be popping up. And also, let's not sleep on Hungary. Okay, let's not just disregard Hungary. Could just throw a whole span in the works, and they could be a team that could now decide who comes first, or maybe Hungary could just shock everybody. So we never know. So, guys, thank you for doing this. And guys, remember, guys, like the vid, subscribe. Remember to join my Euro 2020 Fantasy League. Clicking the link below in the description box. Guys, peace out. Don't forget to click the link in the description box below to join my Euro 2020 Fantasy League. Let's ride.